Are you listening? Damn.
Hello, sports fans. Welcome to the Business of Influence podcast with me, Leroy Mark. And all season long, you've heard this disembodied voice that's been talking behind the camera and you're wondering who it is. Well, we thought we'd bring in the guest today that you've been hearing all season long in the shape of Savon Matjane.
Hello.
How you doing?
I'm lovely. How are you?
It's so crazy to put like voice to face. Like I know what you look like, but they don't know what you look like.
Yeah.
Are you happy to be on this side of the camera?
Yes, I am.
A little nervous?
Because it's like it's like I was a ghost. Now I'm a person. I've just been humanized. Yeah, it's incredible.
I love it. We're literally witnessing the humanization of Savon. Savon, welcome to the podcast. Today we're chatting about Style ID Africa, right? And how influencer marketing really has evolved across the continent. And because we've done this podcast for this entire season and we know we've got some wonderful guests coming up, we've had some wonderful guests come on board, we thought it'd be a good idea for us to chat about exactly why Style ID Africa, because as you know, the podcast is brought to you by Style ID Africa, and it's our way of trying to really add on to the lexicon, to the body of knowledge around influencer and content creation marketing. So thank you for your time and your expertise.
Stop.
Okay, first of all, we need to let people know who you are when you're not being the ghost voice behind the camera. What do you do at Style ID Africa?
All right. So obviously, yes, as introduced, I'm Savon Matjane and I am the innovation and marketing lead at Style ID Africa. Don't make me blush.
I love those on the email at the bottom. It must be a sentence because if it's one word.
Fresh email signature. Yeah,
I love those. And let me tell you why I love when you get titles that tell you what people's jobs are, right? That you start actually thinking about whether or not they're the people for the job, number one.
Yeah.
But also you start asking the questions around what they do practically. So maybe let's go back one step. Innovation and marketing, right?
Yeah.
And then on the other side, we've got influencer marketing, right?
Yes.
Before we even get to that,
Yes.
talk to me about the cycle of how the business works at Style ID Africa. So I am a Leroy.
Yes.
I want to be an influencer.
Yeah.
And then we'll have a Tammy.
Yes.
And he is a business.
Yeah.
Right. And then chat to me about how you make these two pieces work together.
Okay. So for starters, Style ID Africa is an influencer marketing agency and integrated technology platform.
Integrated technology.
Yeah.
Okay.
So integrated meaning?
Yeah.
Yeah. And basically what that means is that we have our own proprietary technology that is a huge part of innovating influencer discovery, ROI from influencer marketing, which are really big pain points, especially when it comes to brands, not only content creators, but brands as well, because what is a brand that's trying to dip its feet into influencer marketing's biggest struggle? Firstly, the fact that they're not specialized, which also removes a big element of being performance driven and understanding the correct analytics that are needed in order to meet whatever their objectives are and ensure that the dollars are making sense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So I get you. So you're saying to me that as a business who wants to get into influencer marketing, what Style ID Africa does is also almost lets me know what I need to be looking out for whatever my objectives are.
Yes.
So those analytics will make more sense to me because it's literally in line with what I want to see happen to my brand.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then on top of that, what is the question now?
You're chatting about a proprietary influencer marketing discovery, right? You've got software to do that. So chat to me about the software. Well, not necessarily about the software, but I mean, you guys have a very innovative way, to use the word, about discovering your influencers, right? And that is a big issue with influencer marketing.
Yeah.
Like, it's like
one of the
bugbear.
biggest. Yeah. So obviously, as a company that is so specialized with regards to this, there's a big difference in working with us than working in a lot of in-house influencer marketing situations, or even what you see very often now, creative agencies and PR agencies and things like that offer influencer marketing as like a part of a large, and it's like what's the thing that they say? When you're a jack of all trades, makes you a master of none. Exactly. So I think that working with a company like Style ID Africa really closes the gap in highly research-oriented discovery of pain points, even leading and directing brands to objectives, especially when they don't know anything about it. There's a huge lack of education.
It really is. It's one of the biggest issues.
Emerging markets, especially like South Africa and across the continent as a whole. And I guess as we even branch into more global markets outside of just the continent, there is a lot of missing education with regards to how powerful influencer marketing actually is with regards to driving business growth.
For me, when you chat about business growth and also chatting about the influencer, right? Had you asked me at the beginning of season 1, did I understand where the influencer and the business meet, right? For me, it's as you say, like the PR agency, for instance, will say we're having an event for our clients, so their work is PR. Right, or it's campaign work for this particular brand, and then they'll just bring in a few influencers so that they can trend. But it becomes so difficult for you even as an influencer because you're not sure what is required of you. Are you asking me to come as a guest so I can put my bum on the seat, or are you asking me to come in and create content? And if so, what kind of content am I creating? What is the objective? Am I the right person for this?
Are you the right person? And what are the objectives? And what should I be doing? That is where another place where Style ID Africa is able to fit the gap so tightly as a highly performance-driven influencer marketing agency, because let's say you call in some influencers to get some hype, right? Are they even the right influencers? That's another thing that's so special about Style ID Africa. With this proprietary technology, it enables a very sophisticated method towards choosing an influencer.
Okay, let's chat about this software without getting into the granular and nitty gritty and violating your IP, right?
Let me not scare people.
Yeah, because when we talk about this proprietary, it becomes very big for us. But you seem to have worked out the science of picking up the right influencer for the right campaign.
Yeah.
So let's go back. How did it happen before? Show me what it was before we got this lovely new shiny toy, right? What would we need to do in the world for us to get campaign to Leroy and campaign to match, right?
I think when we talk about how things were before, it goes back to just like how you're saying, like sprinkle some influencers into the whatever the campaign or activation may be, and then hope that it grows from that point. But the other thing is, has there been, there can be an analysis on the influencers' engagement rate, their followers, etc., right? And then that's how people would be making those types of decisions. But I think that with the type of innovation that Style ID Africa is bringing, it's going into things like, okay, yes, they have a high engagement rate and high following, right? So that may make them good for the campaign activation, whatever it may be. But what are their audience's interests? Or even, let's say we're bringing in multiple influencers for whatever campaign that may be. Do their audiences overlap or not overlap? And how does that contribute to the objectives? Because sometimes you do want influencers
to overlap,
audiences to overlap, so that you can have a stronger impact on that audience. Sometimes you're trying to focus on reach and expanding, so you don't want them to overlap, so that you're reaching as many people as possible. And that type of data, even like ROI prediction and real-time optimization, things like that, and the regulation of, because this is actually a very important thing, an influencer, right, will have, let's say, 100,000 followers, such and such engagement rate, right? And then come with a media kit saying that they do, I'm going to say something so ridiculous, 1 million rand per post.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? 100K per post. How has this person come to that?
You know,
how do you come to that? And Style ID Africa, in part of its innovation, is also the regulation.
So that's
of influencer marketing.
That's it. And so here's where the overlap is between the podcast and Style ID, right? Because when we've had the conversations, and we had them at length about what we're trying to do with this platform is to almost put together industry best practice, but also set a standard for you to be able to come back onto this platform and be able to see what the industry rate is, not just financially, but like what is the currency as far as paid media, right? What is the benchmark? How does it work? How can you integrate it into your work as a content creator or as a brand custodian or a brand? Talking about emotional intelligence, how to upscale your business, all those things are exactly what you're saying. We're trying to regulate the industry and not regulate in the negative way. We're trying to dumb you down, restrict you, but we're trying to put a standard there so that for the person who's not charging R1 million, right? Who's charging R5, we say, but baby, this is not the amount you should be charging.
You're worth
Bump the
way
cheese
more than
up,
that.
right?
Literally, yes.
Yeah.
Because there are people who 100K influencer asking for 100K per post, and then another 100K influencer asking for 20 rand per post, and it's like, how are these people coming to these numbers? The one may be out of necessity, the other may be out of either maybe how they market themselves or just a concept in their mind that has not been calculated in any way.
Well, you know, I can tell you this from content creators and what we call DCCs, digital content creators, is that we also start looking at who's the like person, right? So you in your mind have decided that Savon and Leroy are the same. But as you say, with your, we'll call it the Style ID mix, right? This is the software so that we don't give away the good name, because you must come to us to use it.
Yes.
But if you're when we're using our Style ID mix software, we're able to say to you whether or not Leroy and Savon are the same.
Yeah.
So when we're saying to you, okay, Leroy is charging 10 rand per post, Savon is charging 3,000 rand a post, we can say Savon is actually crazy.
Yeah.
Or Leroy is not crazy enough.
Yeah.
You know, and way to aggregate it. So that for me, that's what's very interesting. And when you start talking about then working on a continental scale, right? What I'm finding interesting, because, you know, Tammy and I went to Ghana last year, and when we were there, it was so interesting for us to be able to start picking up what's happening on the ground in multiple countries on the continent, so that when we start putting together again this refining this data and turning it into information, we're able to say, for instance, what I came out with just as an example is that how we deal with content creation in South Africa is very different from how our counterparts in Ghana do, right? In Ghana, quantity is way more important than quality, and not in a bad way, but they are constantly creating. They're creating in a second. They create about this and that, and as a result, they've got tons of media, right? Whereas with us, we've got like a handful, to be honest, of influencers in every band, whether it's followers, engagement rate, or whatever. And so we only ever see like the same and similar posts. So it's very hard for us to innovate because we're almost hamstrung by this, you know, matrix that we've created for ourselves. So I'm loving it because it's almost trying to put together the rule book to say, this is how you, as someone who's got 5 followers, can get engaged, get work, grow your platform. In the same way, for you who's been just sucking it out of your finger, can say, okay, how do I start cleaning up now for me to be able to actually make this into what it is?
And stop wasting money.
Yeah, it really
like
is.
Optimization to stop wasting money.
Oh, I love it.
And that just takes me back to you asking about our positioning and authority in the space of innovation of influencer marketing across the continent. There is a very heavy focus with us as a specialized agency in doing very research intensive, localized trend research, emerging trend research, consumer behavior research, social media consumption research.
Yep.
That's also a big part of how we're able to bring in such a large market share, to be working across the continent, because just like you're saying, Ghana is not the same as South Africa.
At all.
So you need to be able to understand, just like you're saying now, that if, for example, the Ghanaian market is looking for high quantities, what is the best way to optimize creating high quality content that is focused on its quantity, versus situations where it's the quality. And then there's also the things like the cultural trends, community and culture, the zeitgeist of the general market, as well as these localized countries, niches, communities, things like that. So we put together monthly and quarterly trend reports, going really deep into the pain points of brands of different industries for specific places, treating everything extremely not as cut and paste. You know what I mean? Like every single brand is extremely special, even if we're both selling pencils, or even if we are both foodie content creators. There are big reasons why certain things are right and certain things are wrong for us with regards to the ROI for the influencer and the brand.
For me, there was a chat we had when we had Deshni Govender, who's now with TikTok, when she was one of our speakers at the Business of Influence Style ID Africa Mixer, which is actually a jump you must attend. And for me, what I found interesting was having that conversation was how she was so knowledgeable, right, about, and she was like, the software you're chatting about, right, about what's happening in all the markets, because she spends so much time in Central Africa, West Africa. And she was even able to tell us about there's people out there who have 5 million followers, right, on TikTok. But these are people who are not celebrities, where in South Africa, for you to have 5 million followers on Instagram, you have to have some level of like other media. So you either be an actress or a musician or whatever.
Yeah,
it's
basically
very seldom.
Just that things mean different things in different places, and it's very important to remember.
But I loved that, because what it means also that, and so from a content creator point of view, which is where I come in, is when you get the newsletters on the weekly newsletters, and you start deep diving in what's happening. For me, those are bite-sized snippets of those trend analysis that you do, right? Because you start being able to see about what's happening. Like, for instance, I'm not a makeup and sort of beauty influencer per se, but I'm loving what's happening with the male content creators who are now starting to create content as cisgender, male content creators. They're literally shooting out through the sky. Like, I was seeing guys who were doing stuff for a particular brand where it was like bordering on like masterclass, bruh.
Yeah.
I was sitting there going, yo, you know?
And you know where that comes from? That comes from the kind of research to see, I can even give an example of research that we have been able to forecast, I think from probably even a year ago, the emergence of beauty in the men's space, because of the emerging trend of like just clear skin, not all about the makeup and the you know what I mean, going into the products inside skincare, going into the products inside, let's say for example, what men are using for their beards, what their skin's looking like, are they having bumps because of such and such, like that. Seeing that growth and being able to capitalize on it from an early stage is what we offer in this research and these trend guides, and that ensures our client strategies to not only be customized, but to be current and cutting edge.
On the pulse point of current and cutting edge, and I'm going to add on to that the innovation division of Style ID Africa, because for me it's been very interesting, and I've been interacting with you guys, in the office and many other platforms about the innovation. And I distinctly remember having a conversation with you and Tammy and saying that, I'm very interested in finding out why you need an innovation department, right? Because for me that is such a high level. That's what big corporates do. Like banks go and forecast the banking trends for the next year, because they are getting in R1 billion in the bank. They can spend 2, 3, 5 million figuring out what the next forecast is, because it will in real terms make money for them in the bottom. But what was interesting was when we were chatting about what do we do when we start creating content that we want people to engage with from a trend point of view. So you actually treated me like one of your clients. You said to me, no, Leroy, what we need from you is to have, yes, this kind of content, but this kind of content won't wash with you because you fall into these one. Y'all diagnosed me. But what makes me very, which leads to my question about how when you get all these content creators who are on the platforms, who are coming in and wanting to be met up with the brands, right? How much of that is, apart from having a nice database for you to work with and tap into from a brand point of view, brand custodian to a content creator, that must be such a deep level of like innovation and deep thinking and research, because remember, you're not just dealing with a profile, right? One profile, like my profile and your profile, are going to be worlds apart, even if we're in the same sector.
Same niche, same followers, same engagement rate. There's
but like
so much.
Two different people.
Yeah.
And I'm so interested in that also. And also it takes away what we're chatting about in one of the previous episodes about being worried about, am I doing the content correctly? Because if we take a lot of time to find the content creators, to be able to, not necessarily categorize them, but to say, diagnose them and say, these are the hot points,
and
the
like
cold
10
points.
years of A/B testing to get it right versus, which is what the innovation department is for. And basically that, which is what I'm there to lead. The taking away that A/B testing, working with this influencer to see if things are going to go good. And then if they don't go good, it's like, oh, okay, then we need to change. Like innovation is there to close the gaps of the waste of time. And at the end of the day, what is that?
Waste of money.
Waste of money, lowering of the ROI.
Yeah.
Yes.
So chat to me about how when you start putting together your conversations with your clients, because for me, it's so interesting about how you guys have really gone and deep dived into working on a very high level. I mean, I think also with the experience that you guys have across the continent and dealing with very good brands. I mean, you guys work in fintech, you guys work in fitness, in food, in travel,
everywhere,
in everywhere,
yeah,
in beauty. What is... Do you think, and I want to just now, and I know it's quite a broad question, and it's broad because I want to get your feelings about it. This industry of ours is huge. You know that because it hits you every day when you get to the office.
It doesn't hit me. It hugs me.
It loves you.
It
cradles you.
Yeah.
Do you think that if we remove Style ID Africa from the equation, how lost do you think we are as an industry? Because I'm seeing people who are not necessarily clued up about things to do, right? When as a content creator and as brand custodians, where there's so many things we do and hit and miss. Like even to date, right? Actually, 48 hours ago, there was an invite sent to me for an event where they want me to come as a content creator, and I know I'm just a sprinkling. You know what I mean? It's not thought out.
They didn't.
I'm on the database.
Leroy will probably, people care about Leroy, right?
Yeah, and also they'll know I'll wear a nice suit, and they'll know that I'll arrive on time, and then I'll take a picture or two.
Yeah.
But apart from, how is it that we're still in this day and age not realizing that this is such a... For me, there's very few things that are new in the world. Like the TV will always be the TV, just gets thinner and like lighter. But there's very few things that have really shaken the last 20 years, in my opinion. One of them is social media and influencer marketing.
Yeah.
Because it has changed. I don't remember when last I opened a TV, like turn on the TV. I consume things here. I mean, I was saying to Tammy one day that I've got 3 screens on me right now. 3.
Yeah.
In front of me.
Yeah.
Before we do anything else.
And you still have to go home to look at a screen.
I'm going to watch when I get home. And then remember when you could rewind TV? Game changer.
Yeah.
And then now we've got
record it. Went crazy.
And now I'm like, what are you watching? Oh, hold on. Let me just check for it quickly. Oh, here it is. Oh, which episode are you on? 4. Okay, let me pop it in. So what I'm trying to say is, for me, how is it that, people aren't cottoning on to just how deep and wide this industry is? For you guys to have an innovation department, a marketing department where you've got, this massive piece of real estate in the software, how is the industry not getting it? Why do you think they're not understanding?
I think that Style ID Africa is one of the first specialized influencer marketing agencies in South Africa. So that affords us a lot more experience.
True.
Do you get what I mean? So it's like we've been we've been toying with this for a long time, and that's what's enabled us to grow to the point of understanding the importance of innovation. Another thing is that I think that because people often forget to see, just like you're saying now, it's become so much more important and shaping the industry, social media and influencer marketing. So people start companies, or they started companies a long time ago, and because these things didn't exist, they weren't a part of the equation. Or when they're starting it now, it's like, we barely even know how to use this, and you know what I mean? And then we're going to be chasing influencers who are on social media saying horrible things about us or whatever, or things like that.
Yeah.
So I think that with regards to that,
and the specialization of the media, it means you're able to actually hold on to one first mover advantage. You guys know exactly where you come from.
Yes.
But for me, also, the other thing that's been very painfully clear to me is that because you've invested so much time and resources into it, it's so easy for you to start putting together the how-to guide, because you're dealing with thousands of influencers, you're dealing with tens and hundreds of brands, and you know how it's happened before, so you know what to look out for. For instance, I love what you do when you sign on, right? You get like this whole dossier that says to you, okay, welcome to the party. This is what you should do. Don't forget to put your banking details on your invoice. Don't be saying things like this on the internet. This is the best way for you to get work. This is how you should do a media kit. It's almost like saying to you, as we said at the beginning of the episode, giving you the how-to guide to actually work it out.
Yeah.
Now, how do I become a Style ID?
How do you become
influencer?
A Style ID influencer? Yes, we have been taking quite a brand focus for a second. Let's go to the content creator.
Yeah.
Right? How do you become a Style ID influencer?
And maybe if I want to ask you to be non-biased, is it worth my while? I'll tell you why. So many influencers, when you look at what we call the tier ones, the big girlies with the millions and millions and millions, they just suck a number and say 50 billion rand and brands will pay.
Exactly. But the thing is, like, that needs to stop. And that's what we're here to innovate and regulate. Yeah.
Are you saying that they should be earning less?
Or
are you saying there should be some standardization?
I think that there should be some type of standardization. This comes down to economies of scale. There's a reason why Fiji water and let's say another, a more local brand, Fiji, being more imported, are different prices, but there's the thing, a reason.
There's a reason.
So what is the reason that you're asking for 200K a post or 20K a post? Because I think to that regard, just like you were saying, that puts brands and influencers in the position of being exploited. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that part is very important as well. Just to get into how to become a Style ID Africa influencer. So you go onto our website, www.styleid.africa, and then you sign up. From that point, you would put in your information, niche preferences, links, etc., all of that, and then you go into our database.
Okay.
And the value of that is that it's a highly competitive industry, content creation and influencer marketing.
Girl.
And even though, and even though we're seeing the exponential rise of the nano influencer, right?
Smaller numbers.
Even there's more people who are nano and micro influencers. So now it's even more dog eat dog, shark eat shark world in that space. So when you join our database, that now puts you in a position to be top of mind for campaigns with highly acclaimed brands, across, be it South Africa or across the continent, or even, stretching into our newest growth spurts into the even more global space.
You know what I've also found, having worked at Style ID Africa as a content creator, is that I've also found that there have been niches that I didn't know existed that I fell into, right? And when I mean niche, I'm not talking about categories. I'm talking about spaces and platforms I didn't know I was good at, right? So I know I'm a host, I can do a podcast or whatever, but I didn't know I could host spaces. right? And and then a brand said to me, listen, we've seen you through Style ID, and said to me, listen, we know you can do 1, 2, 3, and 4, but can we now utilize your strength as a host and a presenter for you to be able to host an X space, it was Twitter back then. And for me, what's interesting about because what Style ID, and it's so important we talk about what Style ID does for the brands, because you as a content creator can see the opportunities that arise, right?
Yes.
So when Style ID says to us, okay, one of the things that you guys do is when you go to back to client with your strategy and matrix of what to use, right? You often use a mix of tiers of how many followers you have, depending on what the requirements are for the brief. But also you then use multi-platform because you understand what the platforms do individually. So I might be a nano influencer on TikTok, and you might say to me, Leroy, we don't want you on Instagram. On TikTok, we like the persona you have.
Yes.
So why don't we get you on TikTok and then talk to you there? And I would have never thought that TikTok is like even part of my suite of earnings, right? It's like I know I can bake, but I didn't know I could cook. And you're saying to me, no, we want someone who can only cook rice.
Yes. Yes.
So,
that as a niche, you think foodie influencers are just people who are so good at cooking, or it's chefs showcasing their food online. Like, no, we're also looking for people who are making student meals.
But
because that is a niche that's still important. How do you make affordable food as a student? How do you make food when you only know how to make rice?
3 things. And because you're also not trying to take money away from the business, because I think what people hear when they hear regulation is you're trying to take money away from me. You're trying to make the industry less dynamic. And what happens is that the market will always find itself out, right? And you find this massive gap, which is what has been happening for the last 10, 15 years or so, where you get people who are coming in at a completely ridiculous amount of money and people who are charging like 200 Rand a post. And the difference between the two for me is mind-boggling, because the work is no less.
Yeah.
Right. You still have to go out there. You still have to go do the posts or whatever. I used to hate these army things on X. Where,
ex-army.
Yeah, and I think there's a place for them, but I think it was because it was just like a bombardment of information. It became less effective because people were like we all just screaming. We all
and like bombardment, like you're telling me to do something on Twitter because you're Twitter. Who even are you? Like, what are your credentials? Why should I listen to that?
So it's a noise.
You know nothing about what did Kanye West say? I love Gaga, but what does she know about cameras? You know what I mean? When he was so confused as to why she's now hitting up what was that now, Polaroid?
Yes. And the point that I think Kanye and I'm making is that when you have a company, and I know we're doing like massive push for Style ID Africa, but for me, it's because the reason why this podcast exists is because we've been pushing a lot about trying to get information to people and in your hands. But I also I thought it was very important for us to be able to tell you what happens in the back office, what happens in the office when we're putting all this together, because the podcast is just but one of the things that we do, right? A major part of what we're trying to do is regulate, standardize, and have industry best practice, so that one day when you are coming up and you need to put content together, or just someone to check that you're doing the right thing, or we'll be chatting about another piece of information that is like worldly for me. I've been trying to wrap my head around it for weeks now, about AI and how it works, right? And we've been working very deeply from the Style ID family in the office for your content creation as a content creator, apart from the podcast, but also understanding what it means for you when you start creating your content, because we're all worried that you're not going to be able to create content because of bots and whatever. But the whole big thing for me is understanding what we're doing in this industry, so that it doesn't just seem like it's a conversation we have because we've got access to a studio and things, but there's so much to be done in this industry. And we say it all the time that we've just but touched with 2 seasons in, and the ideas they just come out and we can't catch up. You
know what's even on top of that, with even the discussion of AI, which we will get into in a future episode, and it's going to be amazing.
Listen.
I'm so excited. As you know, innovation and marketing lead, I'm so excited for that. But if you go onto our YouTube as well, outside of this podcast, a big part of what we are trying to do here is also thought leadership, especially with the amount of expertise we have been able to build because of being early adopters of these certain kinds of innovation and technologies. You can see we have a webinar on navigating legalities
Yeah.
with regard to AI and its relation to content creation, and the future of AR in the space of retail, and what that will also mean with regard to ethics and you know what I mean, those things that need to be thought about in the background.
Because here's what's happening right now. I'll say this from a legislative point of view, as I'll put on my attorney hat for 2 seconds, that what happens very often is that innovation happens so quickly that we are unable to catch up to it. And only when there's a massive catastrophe that happens, then we all rush to go to Parliament and say, okay, make a law around it. And it is now that we need to start pulling in the industry stakeholders. And I hate that word, but you know what? It is what it is. Stakeholders are people who are coming in and able to say to us, guys, have you figured out this? Have you worked around this? Small things like from the complex world of law, right, and tax law and IP law and copyright law and trademark law, right, and then things like fair use practices, right, where it's very there's a great
fair use practices.
Now, see all those terms we've used. Fair use is just like whoa, what a big story.
And it's so easy to get into trouble when you're not briefing people correctly, and that actually takes me back to the thing that you were saying, like for example. You're invited to an event to, you know what I mean, to be an influencer, to be generating buzz, and then they just tell you create content. Thank you for having a lot of engagement and followers. Please come to our thing and create content. Aside from the innovation and marketing department, which is not common for influencer marketing agencies,
most
and especially to have a focus on, which is also why we're here to be giving the thought leadership as well.
We're here.
You know what I mean? Then we have our incredible client services department that is really focused on this. Style ID Africa offers end-to-end campaign management, which obviously then it starts with the new business development department, and then goes into the innovation and marketing department in order to put together trend-informed, research-informed strategy, etc. And then that now gets handed over to the client services department, who are there to make the happiest clients in Africa. But not only that, to really support the influencers to understand what is being required from them, to put together these extremely detailed and thought out briefs, even the innovation in the communication with the influencers, to make sure that they are not making the wrong thing. And you know what I mean?
And it goes back to what
content.
And what you were saying, then that leads to delays, and delays lead to money being lost. And you know, I've got an experience where I was working with a client, and I got quite frustrated because of how they were talking to me. Right, we were in a WhatsApp group, and they were just always like wagging the finger at the group in general. But and you know, when
that's not cool, bro.
I can even tell you, and I can even tell you. I even said to them, I think you guys should go over across the road to Style ID for no other reason but for you to
learn something.
Because also what you're doing is you're using software, because I think everyone is trying to find some piece of real estate, to be able to make the job easier, right? Because as you say, we've now realized that in the optimization of being able to find the right influencer and knowing their audience and knowing them inside out, even better than they know themselves, because you guys have plugged me into that matrix, right? And I found out that, there's something I don't know about me.
And we have to, we're optimizing for the brand, but we're also optimizing for the influencer. Even that type of information like the usage rights.
Yeah.
Ensuring that they understand the terminologies in the brief, not just given that and then need to think and understand. And like you said, send in content that's not necessarily correct and
touching
it has
the
to
right
be
points,
redone and etc. So we've got our client services team that's there to really put a lot of love and respect into the management of the client, but also the influencer. Is the influencer okay? Do you understand?
Is you all right?
Yes. Like, are you okay? Did everything go well? Do you need any extra advice on anything?
True.
Is there any way that we can help you more?
And the major part of it all is that this is a job, right? And in any industry, I think about when I got into law, for instance, because this is the other part of my life that I know very well, is that there's so much we've learned. Like we've learned that happy employees make happy people make happy employees. You want people to be happy at work, make them happy in life. That might mean, work-life balance, balance, seminars, team building, whatever you want to call it. We can apply whatever afterwards. Same thing with this business, right? Apart from just the dealing with the influencers, because again, they're so used. Also, you can just imagine the scale, right? I'm dealing with your big sportswear brand that's present in 140 countries. I'm a Leroy with 100,000 followers. It's just hectic.
And it's a high likelihood that you get neglected.
Yeah, but
which
also
is a major problem.
But also, I want to make such a good impression that I might do too much, or I'm so worried about making a good impression that I end up just not doing enough, right? And so my point is, you almost need someone to, again, set the industry-based practice. And I think for me, client service is very important, because as much as we, as the influencers, are the clients, so is the business and the brand custodians the clients. If I were to ask you for one parting shot, one sentence about one Style ID Africa, but about this industry and where you see it going, what would be your parting shot as we wrap up today?
As we wrap up today, I will just give another nod to the content creators, just to get the nitty gritty of how to sign up and be a part of being top of mind with regards to being a part of brand campaigns, collaborations, activations, etc. The nitty gritty of the application process. So we start from 1,000 followers minimum. All of our influencers are highly vetted, which also makes it easier for the brands to dip into the influencer database.
The work has been done.
Highly vetted, 1,000 followers minimum. And then obviously engagement rate is different based on the follower count, but we have that research altogether as to what type of engagement we'd expect from what type of follower count. And then we have the technology to scan through bots and fake likes. So that's another thing. And then what would be the last one? High quality content and posting frequency. So those are the things that are used to vet after signing up. And then from that point, then you get accepted into the database. So it's also not willy-nilly. It's, you know what I mean? It's very structured in its approach. And I think as a parting for real. Yeah, parting for real. I think that our emerging markets need Style ID Africa.
I really think we do.
You know what I mean? Like we are so infantile in comparison to what is happening
the rest of the world.
Yes. And how are we going to get there? Through things like innovation, regulation, being performance driven, being tech driven, things like that, like closing the room for error and ensuring that as a continent, we also become par with them, because there is such incredible content, culture, even the consumer buying behaviors and zeitgeist and etc. of our own, in our own backyard. The stories that we have to tell are so important. And honestly, it's just the amplification of that, because what is influencer marketing? What is marketing in and of itself? It's telling stories that resonate.
And when they resonate, you're able to see exactly how much we have to offer as a content. I think for me, the one thing that you need to take away from this conversation is that if you want to take yourself seriously, you do exactly that. You take yourself seriously. You apply yourself deeply. You do extensive work. You research. You push. And you put in the resources that will make sure that your business becomes the business that pays you, right? And what we do here is to give you the tools so that you can understand, one, how vast this industry is, but two, how it really can become the golden ball of, or the goose that lays a golden egg for this country. So with that, it's a goodbye from me. It's been interesting having you on, Savon. Now we have a face that adds to the voice. And of course, as you know, you need to like, comment, subscribe, press the like button at the top, but also the bell notification so you can know when we drop new content. With that, it's been very, very fun chatting with you, Savon. And until next time, it's bye-bye and God bless.